Monks. Oh, monks. They're considered the weakest class in Dungeons & Dragons, and Treant Monk did an excellent video explaining why. And now they're trying to revise it for the next edition of D&D. Meanwhile, the Pathfinder version of the monk is awesome. It's a strong class on its own, it can go in many different directions, and it's balanced. And I'm going to be doing a 3-part series on the Pathfinder monk, both to encourage people to try Pathfinder, but also to inform other systems as to what they can do to make the monk fun. In part 1, I'll give an overview of the monk and build 5 very different monks. And in part 2, I'm going to use those monks in a combat demonstration at level 5. And then in part 3, I'm going to see what happens at higher levels, draw conclusions about what we have seen, and evaluate the monk and talk about what other systems can learn from it. I am Ronald, the rules lawyer. I am a lawyer who also, for many years, has taught students tabletop role-playing games and a veteran game master, both with Pathfinder 2nd Edition and other D&D-like games. So let's go over the problems with the D&D 5th Edition monk. First, I recommend everybody look at Treant Monk's video. I'm going to link to it in the description, but I'm going to use his chapter titles to go over the weaknesses. He has a set of criteria reflecting what people expect from the monk and talks about how it falls short. First is monk sucks at tanking. They have low defenses in D&D. They have the lowest AC. They only have a D8 hit die, and for many levels, they are not proficient in important saving throws. Next is that the monk sucks at damage. They don't have a large damage die for their unarmed strikes, and many feats don't interact with unarmed strikes. Next is that the monk sucks at control. Their vaunted ability Stunning Strike is unreliable, and requires they spend their limited pool of ki. And the monk's mobility sucks for them. There are other classes that can be just as mobile, if not more, or can just ride a horse. And there's not much the monk can do to leverage that increased mobility. As we go into the Pathfinder monk, I think the contrast will show that there are additional problems beyond those listed here, and also we'll see why these problems exist. This will help players and designers find their own fixes for problems in the monk, and also possibly try out other systems. I'll give one spoiler, which is that they don't rely on ki to do core monk-like abilities, but there's a lot more to it. So let's go over the key features of the class. This is the monk in the core rulebook. Their key ability score is strength or dexterity. They can in fact focus entirely on one of these scores and neglect wisdom and be just fine as a monk. They have, next to the champion, the best defenses in the game. They get 10 hit points every level, not just D10, but a full 10 every level. And they are expert in unarmored defense. This determines their armor class. So if they have a maximum dexterity at level 1, they have an armor class of 19. They are expert, which is the best you can get at level 1, in all 3 saving throws in Pathfinder. There are only 3 saving throws, reflecting fortitude, resisting physical things, reflexes, and will. Their AC scales up to legendary at 17th level. One of their saving throws goes up to legendary, and 2 of their saving throws eventually get the equivalent of evasion, where if they succeed, they are completely unaffected. Powerful Fist lets their unarmed strikes deal a d6 instead of a d4, and their key defining feature is Flurry of Blows. With a single action, they get to make 2 unarmed strikes. This can only be done once per turn. Because attacking more than once gives a progressively bigger penalty to your accuracy, you won't want to attack 4 times with your 3 actions, most of the time. So what Flurry of Blows does, it frees up actions for you to do other things like move or use your skills. You also combine the damage from both your strikes for the purpose of resistances and weaknesses. Resistance function as subtracting a number from the total damage. So if they have a resistance of like 10, combining 2 strikes together to do 20 damage is very important. At level 3, they get incredible movement, a plus 10-foot status bonus to their speed, which increases by 5 feet every 4 levels, so it eventually becomes a total bonus of 30 feet. At level 3, their unarmed strikes count as magical. Level 9, they count as cold iron and silver, and at level 17, they count as adamantine. And at 19th level, every turn, their first attack roll is going to be a 10 or higher, and that's the most accurate attack roll. So you might be asking yourself, where's Stunning Strike? Well, not every monk has it. It's one of the things that you can get with a feat, which we'll see in a minute. And also, we don't have a subclass. Most classes in Pathfinder have a subclass at level 1, but monks are an exception. Monks get to make themselves unique with their class feats, and at level 1, there are, for example, a number of stances that they can take. Each has a special ability, and also gives you access to a unique unarmed strike. They have different damage dice and weapon traits. It takes one action to enter your stance to get these more powerful abilities. You also might be wondering what happened to key points. Well, first of all, you don't need it for your core abilities. Flurry of Blows you can do every single turn. The closest thing to key points are focus spells, and they're called key spells in Pathfinder. They are optional because you don't get them by default. You have to get them from your class feats. Also, they require you spend 1 focus point. Well, your first one gives you a focus point pool of 1, and your pool can go up to 3. When you spend it, you can refocus out of combat for 10 minutes to get a point back, and every focus spell costs 1 point. So there's less bookkeeping involved, and also, if your party is resting at least 10 minutes between combats, you likely are going to have the same amount of ki entering every battle. This means you can be consistent from fight to fight, so you might cast a spell called Ki Rush that lets you move twice your speed with 1 action and make you blurry for a round, and do that every combat, presuming your party can rest in between encounters. And this is Pathfinder's version of encounter powers from 4th edition D&D. Also, resting for 10 minutes is something your party is probably going to do anyway, to use medicine to heal people up and do other exploration activities. You won't need to be begging your party to rest for you to be more monk-like. We're going to go into the 5 unique monks I made, but first I want to give some overall general advice for building monks when you want to play one. First is don't dump strength. In Dungeons & Dragons, your dexterity can be both your accuracy and your bonus to damage, but that's not true in Pathfinder. Your bonus to damage almost always comes from strength. There's one subclass of rogue that is the exception, but every other character needs strength to get a flat bonus to damage. Also, make either your strength or dexterity a +4, the highest that you can get at level 1. An 18 in the old system. You can get that for sure with the way Pathfinder does ability boosts, where you add a set of boosts at 1 of each of 4 steps. A high wisdom you don't necessarily need unless you have key spells that directly attack a monster's defense. Even Stunning Strike, we will see, doesn't require wisdom. Also, you will want a third action. This is the jargon emerging in the Pathfinder community. I might have started it, maybe, I'm not sure. Because attacking 3 times with your 3 actions on your turn is usually not the most effective thing to do because of the multiple attack penalty. You're going to have at least a -8, sometimes a -10, to your accuracy on that last attack. Because you have Flurry of Blows as a monk, you can do 2 strikes that are relatively accurate, and you have 2 actions left. Striding is an action. And very likely, you will want to find something else that does not suffer from the multiple attack penalty to do as a monk, because you have more actions to play with. And there are many skill actions. Charisma is not something to dump. It's something to consider, because there's ways to debuff enemies by intimidating them, distracting them in combat. Also, Battle Medicine is a solid choice. Battle Medicine is a way for non-casters to heal allies in combat, and you will want to cover in-combat healing among your party members as well as outside of combat healing, because Pathfinder is you'll get knocked out, especially at level 1. The battles are challenging. And you got at least 1 free hand, almost surely, if you're a monk, to use those healer's tools. And Pathfinder is generous with ability boosts. You'll get many of them. You get a total of 25 over the course of level 1 to 20. And you may be putting some boosts into wisdom, which helps your key abilities and also helps with medicine. By the way, you don't have to put anything in dexterity to get a high armor class as a monk. There is one stance that lets you do that. But make sure you want to do that stance too. So now for the combat demo, we're going to make 5 level 5 monks. Our first one is going to be a Drunken master. I picked this random photo off the internet, and his name is Drunken. This person's going to be kind of a trickster, distracting people with his antics, and also stymieing them with some athletics maneuvers. And his build is going to be, well, he'll be an ancestry human, obviously, and that lets him get a general feat, which will be Fleet, which will increase his already awesome speed. Natural Ambition, which gives him a level 1 class feat, which we'll get to in a sec. And at level 5, Clever Improviser, which lets him add half of his level to every skill check that he's not trained in. His background will be a Martial Disciple, and he will get Quick Jump, which lets him do a long jump or high jump with one action. And for his class feats, at level 1, he's going to take Tiger Stance. He spends an action to enter the stance, and that lets him step for 10 feet. That avoids attacks of opportunity. It lets him also make Tiger Claw unarmed strikes, which do a d8 of slashing damage. For his bonus feat as a human, he's going to take Stumbling Stance. You can have more than one stance. You can't have them at the same time. You'll have to switch between them, but that gives you some variety. With Stumbling Stance, he gets a bonus to doing feints in combat to make an enemy flat-footed or off guard is the new term. And if an enemy misses a melee strike against him, they are flat-footed to his next strike attempt. And also, you are limited to the Stumbling Swing strike. It does a d8 of bludgeoning damage, and it does extra damage if they are flat-footed, with the Backstabber trait. Next, we have Stunning Fist. This is Pathfinder's version of Stunning Strike. It requires a feat to take. It does not require any key, and triggers every time you do a flurry of blows and hit an enemy. We'll see exactly what it does when it comes up. Next, at level 4, he takes Flurry of Maneuvers. There are things you can do like grappling and tripping with your athletics skill, and when you flurry of blows, you get to mix in some of those skill actions with your strikes. Characters also get more skill feats at every even level, and he's going to take Titan Wrestler, which lets him do those athletic maneuvers against even larger creatures, and Bon Mot, which lets him insult enemies, and we'll get to see that in action. And for his general feat at level 3, he will take Assurance in Athletics. Assurance lets you bypass rolling a die and just get a guaranteed number depending on your level and proficiency in Athletics. It's usually a little below what you would roll on average, but you have the assurance that it will not be lower than that. He also gets a couple of magic items to boost his Deception skill and Athletics skill. Next is the Crane Monk, and this is the suggested build and feats in the core rulebook. And we're going to build Kane based off of that. First, he'll be a human, and for his bonus general feat, he'll take Shield Block. He's actually going to be a monk with a shield. Shields, anyone can use, even wizards can use in Pathfinder, and if you spend an action, it gives you a really powerful +2 bonus to your armor class. Shield Block lets you, in addition, soak damage with your shield as a reaction. He takes a bonus class feat with Natural Ambition, which we'll see in a sec, and also Cooperative Nature, which gives him a +4 bonus when he tries to aid an ally in something. His background will be Martial Disciple, and he takes as his free feat Catfall, which lets him ignore, in this case, because he's an expert in acrobatics by level 5, up to 25 feet of the distance if he were to fall. This character is going to go into the flavor of the Crane style, which is defensive and also can jump around the battlefield. So very athletic and acrobatic. For his class feats, he's going to take at level 1 Crane Stance, obviously, which is going to give him a +1 circumstance bonus to his armor class. He will be limited to the Crane Wing unarmed strike, which does a d6 of bludgeoning damage, so not as much as the other ones, but he gets other benefits from the stance. He also lowers the DC of attempts to do long jumps and high jumps and gets to do those jumps farther while in the stance. With Natural Ambition, his human feat that gives him a bonus class feat, he will take Key Rush. That is a key spell that lets him, with one action, stride twice the speed and become concealed until the start of his next turn. So more mobility and a defensive boon. At level 2, he takes Dancing Leaf, which lets him leap 5 feet farther. And also, if he falls next to a wall, he gets to fall an unlimited distance without taking any damage. At level 4, he takes Flying Kick, which lets him do one of these big dramatic jumps and make an attack at the end of the jump before falling. To help with his jumping theme, for his skill feats, he's going to take Powerful Leap, which lets him leap and long jump and high jump farther, and also Quick Jump, which lets him do a long jump or high jump with a single action. Usually requires 2 actions and a running start. No, he can jump like 25 feet standing in place to another location. Then for his general feat, he will take Battle Medicine because he has those free hands. Why not help the party while they are down? For his equipment, he will get a minor sturdy shield, which resists damage more than regular shields, and a bracelet of dashing, which will help his acrobatics skill. The bonus to speed it gives once a day does not stack with his monk speed bonus, unfortunately. Next, we have another build from the core rulebook called the Key Monk. So this is one that's going to try to gather several key abilities. We have P. She is a Leshy. She is a sentient plant. Because she has Key, she's going to be our kind of representative of the Warrior of the Elements, or Monk of the Four Elements from D&D 5e. Though she's not really going to be that. If you're looking for something that's like an elemental bender like Avatar, you will want to look at the new Kineticist class that's coming out in the new book, Rage of Elements. For her ancestry, she's a Leshy. She has a heritage, which is like a subrace. Being a Leaf Leshy means that she doesn't take any damage from falling ever. And her ancestry feat will be Leshy Glide, which lets her glide from a high point and not fall, and move forward up to 25 feet while descending 5 feet, to descend slowly towards the ground, which is cool. And her other ancestry feat will be Seed Pod. She will get to do unarmed strikes with seeds she propels from her arm. And unarmed strikes can be used with all of the monk abilities, including Flurry of Blows. So she can do a flurry of seeds. Her background is going to be an acrobat. She comes from the circus, and she's going to get the steady balance skill feat, which lets her basically not be flat-footed or off guard while balancing. Also walk on narrow surfaces more quickly. Her class feats will be level 1. She's going to get Key Strike, which lets her do magically enhanced Flurry of Blows, or Unarmed Strike, which includes some kind of extra typed damage. At level 2, she will take Elemental Fist, which, when she uses Key Strike, gives her the option of doing energy damage instead of the other options. Level 4, another key spell called Wholeness of Body lets her heal herself and also try to cure poisons or diseases on herself. For her skill feats, she's going to be the designated healer in the party. She's going to be focusing on healing feats. So she'll have Battle Medicine, she's going to have Continual Recovery, which lets her try to treat wounds the same person out of combat every 10 minutes. And for a general feat, she will take Ward Medic, lets her treat an increasingly large number of people at once outside of combat. For equipment, Healer's Gloves, obviously, to help her medicine checks, and also a Crushing Rune. You can apply special weapon properties to weapons in Pathfinder, and monks get to apply those to what is called a HANDWRAP of Mighty Blows. They can add, in this case, she can add a Crushing Rune so that when she critically hits with one of her unarmed strikes, they get a debuff, in this case, Enfeebled and Clumsy. Next is the Weapon Monk, or Helen. I was going to call her Kensei Monk, but I realized that's a sword monk. She's not really a sword monk. She's going to be our tough guy. She's going to try to control the battlefield and intimidate people, and she's going to have a reach weapon to do so. She is a dwarf, which gives her bonus hit points and a lower speed. Being a dwarf also gives her dark vision. She's a Death Warden dwarf, which makes her more resistant to necromancy effects. She has Dwarven Dowdiness, which makes her more resistant to fear. And Tomb Watcher's Glare. When she critically hits an undead creature, she weakens them temporarily. Her background is a guard, and she can coerce people quickly, make them do her bidding. And she's going to dump Wisdom. She only has a -1 modifier. That's important to point out, because you generally don't want to do that in 5e, but she's not going to take any key abilities, at least not attack any monsters with any key spells. And she has no key abilities at this time at level 5. And here's a demonstration of how generous Pathfinder is with ability boosts. She has a Strength of +4, Dexterity of +4, and a Charisma of +3. She gets another set of 4 ability boosts that need to go into 4 different scores at level 5 and every 5 levels afterwards. So that's how she can get that. For her class feats, she's going to take Monastic Weaponry at level 1, which gives her access to weapons with the monk trait. She also gets to be proficient with martial monk weapons. And all the special things that she can do with unarmed strikes by virtue of being a monk, she can do with weapons. So that includes Flurry of Blows. At level 2, she's going to have a feat that I will not reveal yet. I want it to be a surprise during the combat demo. Level 4, she will take Stand Still. When an enemy within her reach uses a move action that includes standing up or just leaving a square that she threatens, and remember, she has a reach weapon, she gets to, as a reaction, attack them. And if she critically hits, she gets to disrupt that move action if it's still going on. For her skill feat, she's going to invest in being able to intimidate monsters better. And remember, she has this nice charisma of +3. She's going to take Intimidating Glare. She does not need to say anything when she tries to demoralize an enemy, and she doesn't have to share a language. She can try to demoralize a bear with her glare. Then Intimidating Prowess, which gives her a bonus that increases at higher levels based on the fact that she's very strong. She gets to use her physical presence to enhance her intimidation check. And her general feat will be Fleet to make up for her slightly slower speed as a dwarf, to make her as fast as the other monks. Most of the monks, at least. Our last build is Harper, our Zen archer. She's going to focus on ranged attacks, obviously, and also utility. She is an elf, which gives her a bonus to her speed and also low light vision. And for her heritage, she's going to take a versatile heritage, Beastkin. She's actually a werewolf. She is part wolf. She has an action that she can use to go into what's called a hybrid form, which is a bipedal creature that takes on some of the aspects of her animal. And for her ancestry feat, she can take either an elf feat or a beastkin feat. She takes animal sense so that she can smell creatures, even if they are invisible. At level 5, she takes Elven Weapon Elegance, which builds on Elven Weapon Familiarity, which she got from her level 3 general feat. It's like a back door to get another ancestry feat. But these feats together give her proficiency with longbows, short bows, and longswords. And this lets her do the critical specialization effect of those weapons. With her bow, she can pin an enemy down that they have to spend an action to unpin themselves in order to continue moving. Her background is Hunter, and her skill feat will be Survey Wildlife, which gives her information about the animals in an area, and she studies signs of them. For her class feats, she will take, naturally, a Monastic Archer stance. It's a stance she can enter, and she is limited to making strikes with her bows, and she gets to use Flurry of Blows with bows, and any other special monk ability she gains that affects her unarmed attacks, unless it calls for a specific kind of strike. But it has to be within 1/2 of one range increment of that weapon. Level 2, she takes Stunning Fist. Yes, she can try to stun creatures with Flurry of Blows from her bow, but it has to be, in the case of her short bow, she has to be 30 feet from it, or less. Level 4, Deflect Arrow. As a reaction, she gets to add 4 to her armor class against a physical ranged attack. For her skill feats, she's also going to take Battle Medicine and also Recognize Spell. As a reaction, she can try to identify an enemy's spell, and also, if she does really well on her identification skill check, she gets to give herself a bonus against the spell. This is part of her being support for the party, and she's also invested in skills to do this well. Her intelligence or wisdom are each +3. For equipment, she takes Healer's Gloves and also Hat of the Magi, which will help with her Arcana skill. So that's part 1. In part 2, we're going to do a sample battle with these 5 monks, and in part 3, look at higher levels for our monks and come to some conclusions about the Pathfinder monk and why it works as well as it does, and what other systems can learn from it. So if you haven't yet, like and subscribe to this video, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications about the next videos. Also join my Discord, where there is a great community there that will help you learn Pathfinder 2e. It's a great place to just talk Pathfinder 2e and also other games. If you are new to the system, people organize games of the beginner box, and we also have a drop-in organized play system where you can take your character, level them up from game to game. Also, support my Patreon, where you'll get 7-day early access to most of my videos, and also get access to exclusive content, including my 2 campaigns where I have been GMing D&D YouTubers new to the system. So that's it. I have been Ronald, the Rules Lawyer. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in part 2.